18 minutes to the top of the hour. Question this morning, can Brian Williams survive this controversy? That's what a lot of people are asking. NBC has launched an internal investigation into false claims made by its nightly news anchor. Now, in a memo to staffers, NBC News President Deborah Turness wrote, quote, "This has been a difficult day for all of us. We have a team dedicated to gathering the facts to help us make sense of all that has transpired. We're working on what's the next step. The next best steps are, rather. And when we have something to communicate, we will, of course, share it with you." Now, this scandal broke Wednesday when Williams apologized for repeatedly lying about a personal experience from 2003. Williams claimed he was aboard a helicopter hit by a rocket-propelled grenade in Iraq when he was actually on a different helicopter. Let's bring in now my colleague and CNN senior media correspondent, Brian Stelter. We also have Joey Reiman, CEO of Bright House Consulting here. Good to have both of you.
Thank you.
I want to start with you, Brian. Is there any indication of what this investigation looks like, and will it expand beyond this Iraq chopper story?
Well, I can tell you that they've started to interview some of the soldiers involved, at least as of last night. NBC producers are reaching out to the people that were actually aboard the helicopter that actually took this RPG strike and trying to figure out their stories and verify their stories so they know exactly what Brian Williams said that was wrong. But we don't have any guidance yet, Victor, on whether this investigation will expand to other stories that are now starting to be scrutinized. The biggest one is Brian Williams' accounting of Hurricane Katrina. There were several statements he made on the air and in blog posts that are now coming under scrutiny. Now people asking if he had all the facts straight on that story. I don't want to go too far on that one because it's very early and we don't have all the facts. But the question is whether people are now going to scrutinize lots of Brian Williams stories and whether NBC is going to take that seriously as well.
Joey, we were talking during the break and you said one of the biggest problems is silence, not hearing from Brian Williams for so long.
That's right. Silence in this case is not golden. Actually, you know, people tell lies with words, but they also tell lies with silence. A good watch out is that the words silent and listen have the same letters in them. And when people like this are silent, other people want to listen and people want to hear something from Brian.
And Joe, when your brand is trust, when your brand is I have been there, they've got these promos, I have been there, I will be there, and you have a person on air who is being investigated at the same time, that has to undermine the brand.
Absolutely. Every time there's a fib, that trust turns into rust. The rust actually ruins the brand. In this particular case, I think after 30 years, and I think almost 10 million viewers, I think he's in good shape.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think he's in good shape, Brian?
I am, you know, I'd be surprised if Brian Williams is not sitting at the anchor desk next week. I think NBC has a very tough decision here, you know, about what's going to hurt them more, to take disciplinary action or not take disciplinary action. But the fact that within the TV industry, people are openly speculating about whether he'll survive and openly talking about who could succeed him. I mean, this is an extraordinary change for him. Like you said, he's the #1 news anchor in the United States. And I'll tell you something that's sort of weirdly funny, Victor. On Wednesday, before this story broke, I was actually going to write a story about how Brian Williams' ratings were on the rebound. He had been losing a little bit to David Muir at ABC. Lately, he's come back. He's firmly #1 right now across the nation. He has been in a very good place, and he renewed his contract just 2 months ago at NBC, reportedly a 5-year deal that takes him almost to the end of the decade. So he was in a very strong position. But then these questions came up.
You know, you mentioned just a moment ago the Hurricane Katrina coverage now being scrutinized. Brian Williams said that he saw a dead body float by the five-star hotel he was staying in the French Quarter. And there have been questions about what happened there. Let's listen. We've actually got part of the interview with Michael Eisner.
When you look out of your hotel room window in the French Quarter and watch a man float by face down, when you see bodies that you last saw in Banda Aceh, Indonesia, and swore to yourself that you would never see in your country, I beat that storm. I was there before it arrived. I wrote it out with people who later died in the Superdome.
And now the New Orleans Advocate, they reported that that area was saved from most of the really traumatic flooding, but they have released some pictures there showing there was water, but if you look, it's shallow enough to where you can see the sidewalk through it, but still the boat bobbing here. Brian, I'd imagine you don't want to get into the pattern of checking every single story, because inevitably there will be maybe one small detail, and for that you have your main anchor apologizing over and over.
Yeah, this is a complicated one because it's very hard to verify some of the rather vague things that he said. He wasn't naming specific individuals, and we don't know other people that he was quoting, for example. But there is very real scrutiny now on these Hurricane Katrina stories, and there's other ones from Katrina that are also coming under review. So the question is whether NBC will also review them. And I agree with your other guests. Silence here is only making it worse for Brian Williams. I'm sure NBC is advising or requiring him not to speak. But in that vacuum, everybody else is speaking. Everybody else is reviewing it, and that only makes it worse for him.
Joey?
Yeah, the bottom line for Brian is that NBC in this case stands for not being canceled.
Yeah. And what should they do? Should they keep him on the air?
Absolutely, and he needs to follow the ABCs, anchor himself in trust. Be Brian, be authentic. You know the word authentic and authority, they come from the same root. And most importantly, clear the air. This guy's got to come forward, stand up. If he does not define himself, the public will define him.
All right, Joey.
Let me say, he does have decades of credibility. He has gained lots of goodwill over a long period of time. So that doesn't vanish overnight, maybe?
All right, Joey Reiman, Brian Stelter, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Christy?